So before 1886, work in the United States was super brutal. We are talking 10, 12, 14, even 16-hour days. It was 6 days a week, sometimes 7. Factories did not run on a system of balance at all. It was simply exhaustion. Kids were also working full shifts. Kids, as young as 7, 8, 9 years. And as industrialization grew, work shifted from this mindset of sunrise to sunset into something way harsher, the clock. Time became something that you owed your employer. So workers started organizing because that's a load of BS. 16-hour days. So in 1886, the Federation of Organized Trades and Labor Unions, they made a really, really bold call. Starting May 1st, workers would demand an 8-hour workday. And the slogan was 8 hours for work, 8 hours for rest, 8 hours for what we want. And people really turned out and answered because, like I said, this was all a load of bullshit. Hundreds of thousands of workers across the country walked off the job. And in Chicago alone, tens of thousands would go on strike. It was one of the first mass labor movements in U.S. history. But from there, things would obviously escalate. So on May 3rd, police opened fire on the striking workers outside the McCormick Reaper Works. People were unalived. In response, activists called for a protest the very next day. That protest took place on May 4th at Haymarket Square. And it started peacefully, like most protests, right? Then the cops moved in to disperse the crowd. A bomb was thrown, probably by the cops. Chaos, gunfire, multiple people, civilians and officers alike, they were unalived. And what followed was not any kind of form of justice, obviously. It was a crackdown and a fierce backlash because how dare these people have the audacity to demand better? Labor organizers, many of them were considered anarchists. They were arrested and put on trial. This was known as a sham trial. There was very little evidence tying them to the bombing. The trial was widely condemned, but several were sentenced to death and they were executed. They would become known as the Haymarket Martyrs. And this next part is something that I really think that people don't talk enough about because the truth is this movement did not see an overnight change. It didn't win immediately. And we live in such an instant gratification society with low attention span, and it's affected people's ability to understand this. After Haymarket, unions were suppressed. Workers were pushed back into those same long, exhausting schedules. The 8-hour day did not become standard overnight. It would take decades more of organizing, striking, and sacrifice. But May Day stuck and became an international symbol of labor resistance, of demanding time and control back for the worker. And that brings us to now. Because the fight is still very much in effect, we might not be working 16-hour factory shifts, even though there are definitely people who are doing something similar, but people are still working multiple jobs just to survive. The 40-hour work week is stretched into nights, weekends, side hustles, and gig work. It's set in this backdrop of false urgency, burnout, always-on culture, and it's the same tension of the employer owns your time. It's just dressed differently. And that core question has not really changed at all because who really does own your time? May Day is a reminder that every protection we have, weekends, labor laws, the idea of an 8-hour day, no children being allowed to be exploited and work 8+ hour shifts, that came from people who were willing to risk everything to demand change. So when you hear May Day, when we're talking about labor movements, this is a receipt. It's also a question. What are you willing to demand now, especially knowing that it will be uncomfortable and it will take time? We have to get past this very intentional programming of instant gratification and short attention span. Until next time, y'all.